So if you were a part of my last Genshin Impact discussion video, you know some people are leaving the community, some people are done with Genshin Impact, and it's not me. I'm not people. One of the reasons that they were leaving was just because of a lack of endgame content. For those of us who are persevering through the lack of endgame content, one of the biggest things we're probably spending our time doing is Spiral Abyss. I know not everyone does Spiral Abyss, and that's kind of what this video aims to help fix. I want to talk about some things we can do to Spiral Abyss to make it better accessible to new players and to lower AR players in general, or more casual audiences, so that way they're able to get some good rewards and it provides more overall content for everyone else. So let's talk about these 4 ways we can improve Spiral Abyss. Just as a disclaimer, I'm a big fan of Spiral Abyss as content. I feel like it's pretty fun to be able to put your teams together and go and try to challenge yourself with actually difficult content. I've been able to 36 star it for a while now. I haven't actually tried this cycle, but that's mostly just because I'm busy with finals week. But currently, Abyss feels like a lot of the same, which is expected to some extent because it's the same challenge over and over, really. I'm not complaining that Abyss sucks. Obviously, I really like Abyss, but I feel like there are some no-brainer improvements that we could do. If you've tried this cycle and you beat last cycle, you'll know that this cycle is a little bit harder than the last one, and every single Abyss cycle has gotten just a tiny bit harder, and I feel like they've been approaching this the wrong way. The first thing that we should be doing, instead of making Abyss 12 harder, is that we should actually just be adding more Abyss floors. We could have the Abyss reset stay completely the same, and by adding more floors, we're adding more Primogem incentives for people to actually do more Abyss, and it creates more challenging content for higher tier players while not locking out players who can't keep up because they didn't roll on the latest gacha character. I know Spiral Abyss can be cleared with like all 4 stars and whatever. I'm not saying that that's not a thing, but we do know that the Spiral Abyss gets built around whatever the newest character is, and as a result of that, I feel like it's only fair if we allow for some players who do get the character to continue on and try to exploit that, while we allow the players who chose not to roll on those characters to still be able to get rewards for completing content. One argument I've seen against this actually is that it would cause enemies to go over level 100, which would give us damage reduction, which isn't something we want to enforce, but I think there's ways to make the content more challenging without necessarily raising the enemy's level. One of the first things you can do is you can change the ley line disorder, right? There's some that are more powerful than others. The Hydra one has been such a pain in the butt. Like seriously, that thing shuts down so many characters. But if you compare that to other ley line disorders like the Electro one, you'll see that the Hydra one is probably much worse than the Electro one is. So if you put the Electro one on a lower floor and then as it gets higher, maybe you put the Hydra one on instead of increasing enemy level. But please don't use the Hydra one ever again. I can't take that thing, dude. The other thing is you can change the enemy amount or the enemy type. Obviously, the more enemies you add, the longer it's going to take us to kill unless someone's doing a Mona one-shot or now a Eula one-shot. So I also think we're severely lacking in Abyss boss fights. I would love to have a big Abyss room and fight Andreas. Like how cool would that be if Andreas had like a different moveset or just buffed damage or something? Some way to make his fight more challenging. I just feel like adding more Abyss floors is such a no-brainer, especially as we get further on in content, and I really hope that they do something like that, not only as a way for us to get more rewards out of it, but as a way for free-to-play players to keep up with all the people who are buying new characters on the highest floors. Another way to improve the Abyss goes hand in hand with adding more floors, which is adding co-op capability. Now, before you go into the comments and go, but that would make it too easy, that's gonna ruin the Spiral Abyss, hear me out. My example about adding more floors could be something like you can matchmake or you can co-op with friends specifically from floors 13 to 15 if they added that. So to compensate for the Abyss getting significantly harder, you could just add another player, and I'm sure that balancing that would be really, really hard, but I think it would be such a great opportunity for more content, and that's what we really want. People are already finding ways to make co-op more fun, like they're doing these like speed runs with cats from Leeway. I don't know what that's about. But I think there's really great ways that you could incorporate co-op into Spiral Abyss that wouldn't make it too easy to do. Alternatively though, if you didn't add more floors, maybe you could have a single player Spiral Abyss and a co-op Spiral Abyss, and that way in co-op you can go help out your lower AR friends, or if you're 2 friends in endgame, you could both tackle the Spiral Abyss together just as another like fun form of content. A lot of people hate the matchmaker, and that's fine too. The point is not that I want everyone to matchmake with everyone. The point is that I think it would be really fun if we could co-op with our friends. I don't, however, think that 4-player Spiral Abyss would be balanced at all, just in the nature of how these characters work. So I would not suggest 4-player Abyss. Maybe they could find a way to make it work that would be cool. Maybe they could add mechanics and each person has their own floor and they have to do something in a certain order. It could be like a raid, I don't know. What if Spiral Abyss 13 to 15 were just raids? How sick would that be? Another suggestion that they could do is to add an endless mode. And I have heard so many people talk about endless mode, and I feel like it would be such a good addition to the game. And if not in Spiral Abyss, that would be totally fine too. But I feel like we're severely lacking in the ability to just beat enemies endlessly seamlessly and test out characters in a way that's conducive to gameplay. If they did something like this, they could make a separate weekly reset or something from Spiral Abyss that allows you to get gems and maybe even fragile resin. I don't know. I don't think they necessarily have to add too many incentives to play endless mode. I think people would do it anyways, but I think it would just be a fun way to get the player base more involved in harder content. Maybe on the weekly reset, they could have a gimmick for what the ley line's gonna be, or they could change the ley line based on floors. Maybe they could say, oh, you're encouraged to use these kinds of characters because of this buff. I mean, it's basically just ley line disorders like events, but for getting higher in floors, you could have enemies evolve, or you could have the enemies multiply. Just having more enemies would be cool. Maybe every 10 waves or so, you spawn a boss. Maybe you start with the electro hypostasis, and then eventually you get onto Andreas. Like 50 waves in, you're fighting Andreas for some sick rewards. And then maybe after boss waves, you get a buff, and it kind of treats it like Hades. I don't know if any of you've played that one, but how you get like a buff of some sort every once in a while, that would be a really cool addition too, because then you can build your character as you're doing the endless game mode. It would just give a lot of people things to do after they max out their Abyss, and I think that's really important right now. And one final thing that they can do to incentivize players to play Spiral Abyss and to improve Spiral Abyss's experience as a whole would be to allow for lower Spiral Abyss floor resets. Maybe you're immediately thinking, miHoYo would never do that, the Prima Gem reward is way too high, it's too free, but honestly, I don't think miHoYo loses anything from giving us slightly more gems each week. Spiral Abyss already only gives you like 3 pulls. It's not like a super significant amount you're missing out on if you can't make it 9 through 12, but I feel like they should really be changing up the lower floors too, because there are lots of early to mid game players who watch all these videos on how to do Spiral Abyss, and then they go into their Abyss 5 or whatever. They struggle so hard, but like then they get that completion and they're finally so proud of themselves. But if they're a casual player, maybe they're not playing enough to get to floor 9. Maybe they want to play casually enough so that way they can build their characters how they want, fight through floors 5 to 8, and get something out of it. Even if it's not as significant as the floors 9 through 12 give, it would be so awesome to incentivize people to re-clear lower floors as well, just as an extra form of content and reward that we can get. Plus, for all you sticklers about people using floor 7 to damage test, wouldn't be a problem anymore. So these are 4 ways that I could think of to improve the Spiral Abyss experience currently in Genshin Impact. If you have any more ideas, you should definitely post in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, and I really think that if enough of us say something, we may see miHoYo add something in. I'm a Genshin creator, I have a direct line to people who work there, and they do watch our videos. A lot of quality of life changes they're making in 1.6 weren't just from surveys, they were also from people commenting on content creators' videos and from content creators' videos themselves. When they see a bunch of people rally behind one thing that they want, as long as it doesn't hurt the business model itself, they'll usually give it to them. And I really think right now miHoYo could use some more people playing their endgame content to incentivize them to come back and build characters once they reach endgame. So ultimately, it's a win-win. Anyways, let me know what you think in the comments. My name is Braxophone, and I stream live a couple days a week at twitch.tv/Braxophone. Make sure to go follow if you want to see some awesome Genshin Impact content, and of course subscribe for more Genshin and other game content coming soon. I'll see y'all later, and happy Spiral Abyss runs.